Hi guys, this is Vishal here from Rapport. So in this video, we will understand how to make an external API call or a REST API call to fetch the data and display the data in the form of data table or data group or basically cards, right? So it is a very simple API call. In Rapport, we have a very good support of REST API. So you can integrate with any system in the world which has a support of REST API. So you can pull data, push data, create records, use dynamic values, save in session, and a lot of interesting things. In this video, we will cover how to fetch the data and display on the UI. So a very simple use case. So we have a Airtable. Okay. Now let's say we want to fetch this data from Airtable and display on Rapport and directly fetching from API. How do we do it? Right. So I'll go to the API documentation. So each Airtable has a very good API documentation. You can generate token, which I've already done it. So these are the APIs which you basically get to fetch data. You need to pass authorization, bearer token. Token you can generate from here in the developer hub and all these things, right? So we will use this sample API to fetch the data and store in database, right? So this is an API URL. I'll put my key and this is the format of record which is coming. So its data is coming inside records key. So this is first record, second record, and so on. Okay. So now we'll just see how do we do it. So to integrate REST APIs in Rapport, what we do, we'll just copy this URL. Okay. What we'll do, we'll go to the Rapport and we go to external API. So this is a module which basically where you configure all the APIs, whether you want to pull data, push data, delete, anything, whatever you want to do, you do it here. So I'll create an API. So here you can give the name, URL, what type of call you want to do, whether you want to send some data as part of request, because let's say you are making a call and it is expecting some value either in header or in body. So you can say send data. Once the data comes, you basically process data. So we'll see how we do it for this particular use case. So I'll give some name, let's say fetch Airtable projects, let's say. Okay, it's a get call. How do you know? So in the REST API, you see it is a get call, right? So I'll just paste the URL. It is saying maximum records 3. I'll just remove it. We want to fetch all the records. Okay. I think by default it gives 100. So let it bring 100. Now I don't want to send anything dynamic as of now. We want to send headers because in the API -h for header. So it is expecting us to send authorization and bearer token. So I'll say in the authorization value is bearer. Token I have already generated previously, which is stored with me. So I'll just paste the token which I already have, right? And that's all. So we have given the URL and we have given the header value, which is good enough to make a call and fetch the data. Okay, I can try sending a sample request. Right, and if it brings the data, that means my API is working fine. So the data is here, it is fetching it, which is fine. So all the records are coming inside records table. So what I'll do, I'll say process response and I'll say map response data without saving. So we are saying whatever the data is coming, just map it to some collection, but don't store it, right? So we already have created a collection. So let me show you the collection. We already have created a collection called project. It has a couple of fields like name, description, status, priority, and all these things, right? Why we have created the field? We want to map the data which is coming from Airtable to Rapport collection so that we can generate forms, we can generate tables and all those things on the base of the schema which we have already created, so that we don't have to rely on JSON or the JSON which is coming from there, right? So we have created a dummy collection. It has just 5 fields and these are the same 5 fields which is coming from Airtable. Most of them are like text and one is date format, which is fine. We don't have anything, there is no data and we will not store anything, right? This collection is just for the mapping. I'll go to my REST API and say map response without saving data. So it is asking me in which collection you want to map. I'll say map in the project collection. It has opened all the keys of the project collection. Now it is saying if the data is coming in some nested JSON or in some JSON path. Yes, in our case, the data is coming inside records. So if you go to Airtable and if you go to the API, so data is coming inside records. So this is the data, right, which is inside the records key. If it is not in the key, if it is directly coming at the root, you can just skip it, right? Now let's go here, uniquely identifiable column, which is a key which is uniquely identifiable. So ID is unique. So here you see ID is unique. You can mark any column as unique which you think is uniquely identifying that record in the REST API, right? Then name. So name you can see is coming in in fields and name. So we'll say fields dot name because it's a nested JSON. So you need to give the complete JSON path. You can just copy it. And then description, which is, let's say, fields dot description. I'll just copy fields everywhere because everything is coming inside fields. Then description, which is fine. Status, so I'll just copy status. Then priority, copy priority. And then start date, which is coming inside start date. So I have done the mapping and saying whatever data is coming in record, just map it to this collection, and that's all. Save it, right? So it has saved the mapping. Now I want to call this data somewhere, or let's say display the data in a data table. So I'll go to my page and drop a data table component. What I'll do, I'll go to the component and drop a section, a one column layout, and then drop a data table. So this is the data table. Okay. Now here I'll say get content from external API response. So this is important. This time we are not fetching the data from collection. We are saying go to external API, whatever data is coming there, bring it. Okay, and I'll say from Airtable projects. So and this is fine, right? And that's all. I'll remove this search form. We don't need it. Okay, we can arrange the columns as we want. So that's all. Now let's just preview, and the data is here. So you see, it is making a real-time call and bringing the data. If I go to my collection, there should not be anything. So here you see there is no data, neither in preview environment, neither in production environment, because we are not storing anything. We are saying whatever the data is coming from external API, just display on the table, right? Now let's go and add one more record. So I go to my Airtable and let's add one more table. Let's say AAA dummy. In progress, low, some date. Okay, now if I go here and reload the page, it should bring the data. So the data is here, right? We can also implement pagination. We can also implement search, which we'll cover in the later videos. Now let's go and display the data in the form of cards. So what I'll do, I'll go here, same thing, instead of data table, now I'll drop a data group component. So I'll drop a one column layout. In the components, I'll say data group. Same thing, I'll say get data from external API response, which response fetch data from Airtable. That's all. I don't need search bar. I'll just remove it. Now I can map it, right? So here in the card title, let's say get data from project, and in the project, let's say name. Right here, description. Now how we are able to map it to a collection, because in the API we have already mentioned that whatever the data is coming, map it to a project collection. So it is wrapping over to a project collection, so that here you can choose the collection fields directly rather than working on JSON, right? Which is obviously much difficult. So now let's just reload the page. So this time you see the data is coming in the form of cards. Okay. And this is obviously table. So I'll just remove the table. If you want to change the layout of the card, design of the card, all those things are possible. And so you can make it much more nicer. You can have a cards, a 2-column card, 3-column card, for which we have different videos. But yeah, this gives you an idea that how to bring data from any data source and display in the form of data table or in the form of cards. Okay, so you can build any system which brings data from external API and then display the data to the user. You can basically pass dynamic parameters in this query that you want to bring data for a specific user on the basis of the logged in user, on the basis of categories, all those things, right? So those we'll cover in different videos. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you again in the next video. Bye-bye.